Right now, let's turn to your top story. We've got new details emerging of a possible motive in the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. So could the suspect's roommate and lover be a factor? 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was arrested for the deadly attack on Thursday after a 2-day-long manhunt. Utah Governor Spencer Cox spoke out over the weekend, noting that Robinson may have been radicalized online. Last week, we heard the governor speaking about the suspect's conversations with his family.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
The governor also said over the weekend that Robinson was living with and in a relationship with a person that was transitioning from being male to becoming female. According to police, the roommate has been cooperative and was, quote, shocked in learning about what happened. Investigators are still trying to piece together a motive. But we're wondering this morning, could Tyler Robinson's roommate and lover be relevant to the investigation, or also the motive? Let's bring in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, former SLED agent and former prosecutor Tommy Pope with us as well. Good morning to you both. Jennifer, let me start with you, please. Your thoughts on the roommate lover. How helpful do you think this individual will be in piecing together this case?
I think, Julie, he's going to be very relevant. And this is why. This is somebody who was extremely close to the shooter, somebody who lived with him day in and day out, somebody he would have expressed and heard expression of different political ideas. Again, I think he's going to be able to provide information, particularly regarding the motive.
I appreciate that. Tommy, let me ask you, please, about what was inscribed on the cartridge casings. Let's take a listen to what the governor noted about that, Tommy, and we'll come to you on the other side.
Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow," and a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Tommy, do you think we can glean anything with respect to the motive from what was inscribed on these cartridge casings?
I think it meshes with, he is clearly on the other side of Charlie Kirk's views. As you know, and I know your viewers know by now, that you don't have to prove a motive. I think it gives us some insight into the killer. But, ultimately, it's a matter, as Jennifer said, it's a matter of proof. And the roommate, had it been a roommate, a trans friend, a wife, a spouse, a best friend, that's standard law enforcement practice. You're going to get to the people that's closest, because a jury, even though you don't have to prove motive, a jury is expecting to understand it sometimes to bridge some gaps that can be in circumstantial evidence. And so I think it's going to tie in with the total picture.
Tommy, appreciate it. Jennifer, let me go back to you, please. Some of the friends of Tyler Robinson, the suspect, have said and confirmed to law enforcement that there was a deep, dark internet culture, dark places on the web where Robinson supposedly was, according to them, was going deep. How might that fact, if it's true, again, presented by his friends to law enforcement, how might that help assist investigators in determining how exactly the alleged, planning, placement, all the things that occurred on that dreadful day, September the 10th, happened?
Well, other than the video proof and the forensic proof that they're going to have, this digital footprint is going to be really important, Julie. It's going to show in his words and in his communications, not somebody reflecting on what they heard, but actually his communications on these boards with these individuals. Now it's there and it's in writing. And so all the time in cases like this, law enforcement is going to want to bring these messages forth to show exactly what he was thinking and what he was planning to do.
Yes. Jennifer, thank you. Tommy, tomorrow, this defendant is going to be in court in Utah. We know that he's already been charged by police, and we expect the district attorney's office to file their formal charges. It may include some amendments, as you know. Do you think we could learn tomorrow whether they'll be seeking the death penalty?
There's certainly that possibility. As I've told you in the past, and my approach to the death penalty is first you've got to see, can you prove the murder beyond a reasonable doubt? Because if a jury has even lingering doubt, obviously you got to get a conviction. But if there's lingering doubt or if it's kind of circumstantial, sometimes you can risk getting a conviction by seeking the death penalty, but I'm sure the prosecutor will make that determination. I would imagine if the evidence is solid, whether they announce it tomorrow or not, I would see a path in which they're seeking the death penalty, particularly if they have the evidence that I've initially heard of some fingerprints. I got to believe with all this writing on the casings, with the gun being found, I think they're going to have some good forensics, as Jennifer referred to. And I believe that the evidence will be there to prosecute him. They won't need his help. And so I feel certain that this would be a death penalty case.
Tommy, thank you for that. And you've tried them. You've done them. You have that experience. And uniquely in this case, we know Charlie Kirk's position on it because of videos of him speaking about it. He was pro-death penalty. And so I find that very unique. We don't always have the actual victim's perspective on this, but here in this case they do. Jennifer, I want to ask you about something a lot of people are talking about, the shot that killed Charlie Kirk. You are a firearms expert. Matter of fact, you were training over the weekend. Tell me, would you assess this for us, given the individual? We're not talking about a professional. We're not talking about somebody former military or someone like yourself. Tell me, was this that hard of a shot to make from that distance for a person like 22-year-old Tyler Robinson?
Well, the particular gun he shot, which was a Mauser 30-06 rifle, this rifle is so extremely accurate. So it's important to understand the vehicle with which he was using to commit this crime, right? So it's very accurate. Secondarily, the distance he was at was not a great distance for this rifle. This rifle could go 3 to 4 times as far depending on the skill of the shooter. In fact, back in Montana, the target lengths are up to a mile that people try to shoot with similar guns, just so people understand. It's a difficult shot. But nevertheless, this was an easy shot for somebody if they were practiced with this weapon from this distance.
Really helpful insight you both have shared. Retired Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, thank you so much. I know we have to let you go. We'll see you back here very soon. Attorney Tommy Pope is coming with us. Do the same at home, please. Go get some more coffee. We continue our coverage and the latest developments on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The suspect reportedly not cooperating with police, so we'll talk about how to get him to talk. Plus,
when someone says to me, well, she said 2 months before that she would never commit suicide, you know what I say? I say she's thinking about suicide.
So was it suicide or was it homicide? We're spotlighting the officer's affair murder trial for defendant Anthony Shea. And as you just saw, that attorney who you should recognize is speaking out on behalf of his client. The story's coming up.
My 2 best friends were just murdered.
Join me for a Court TV true crime series where we take you from the crime scene to the courtroom.
Donna Adelson hates every piece of grass that Dan Marcel ever walked on.
It's something that'll haunt all of us forever.
It always seemed like he was covering or deceiving.
This was a whole different level.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands, a Court TV original series. Season premieres September 27th.
only on Court TV.
Man, just, you hear the pop, and then you just see it, like, hit his chest, and then just blood squirted out of him all over the table, and then he just fell over, and I just, like, I'm shaking.
As the assassination of conservative activist leader Charlie Kirk continues to be a trending topic, we're learning more about the alleged assassin, defendant Tyler Robinson. The suspect tight-lipped on any shooting details. While speaking with ABC News, Utah's Governor Spencer Cox gave this update on the case, including Robinson's reluctance to speak with law enforcement.
He has not confessed to authorities. He is not cooperating. But all the people around him are cooperating, and I think that's very important. We're collecting much more, including forensic evidence that is coming back from Quantico that will help us tie the shooter to the weapon and everything else. So that's all being processed right now.
The governor went on to say that more information will be revealed in the coming days as charges are expected to be formally filed by the district attorney's office on Tuesday. So we're asking our panelists, how do investigators work around this uncooperative suspect? Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci and retired police lieutenant Mike Gould. Good morning to you both. Lieutenant, you know I want to start with you on this, please. How do you make a guy like this talk?
Well, I think time, when he's isolated, if he's shut out from the outside world, internet and so forth, that has a tendency for somebody to start cooperating. But when his privileges are taken away. But frankly, I don't know the necessity of this. You have the gun, you got the bullet, you got videotape, you have an enormous amount of forensic evidence here, similar to the Luigi Mangione thing. So it would be nice, icing on the cake, maybe get some insight into a maniacal brain. But other than that, I think time, he'll talk, or more importantly, as the governor said, his family and friends will kind of put this together. I think they already have it, frankly. I'm sure Mario can add greater insight.
Really sharp point you made there, Lieutenant, about how essentially you're saying, you know, if my case, I don't care if this guy talks because I've got enough. I don't need him to say a word. I'm confident in my case, my evidence. He can sit there and be quiet for all I care. Appreciate that. Mario, you know I want to go to you on the other facet of this. So the legal aspect. So if investigators aren't extremely careful on how they go about approaching all that, great defense attorney like yourself is going to get in there and uncover what's wrong. So tell me, what are some of the things that you would be looking for at this point in time? He's hit the jail. What about counsel? Talk to me, Mario.
So you can't compel somebody to testify against themselves. I mean, it's under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. You have a right to remain silent, and that's what Miranda is for. As far as an attorney, I would be in there immediately to counsel him and tell him to keep remaining silent. The only time I would ever counsel a client to maybe speak is if there is an incentive for him to speak. So in this case, he's looking at the death penalty. If they take the death penalty off the table and say, look, if you confess to this, you're gonna, you'll serve the rest of your life in prison without, the death penalty, maybe that's something to consider. But why would they do that? I mean, as was just spoken, they have more than enough evidence for a conviction here. They have the gun, they have more forensic evidence, they have his friends, they have the roommate. So, there's no reason to give him a specific deal in this case unless they think that there's co-conspirators. Are there other people out there that he conspired with? Those are some of the things I would be looking at if I were law enforcement.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Mario. Let's take a listen to what Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, said when she addressed the nation from the headquarters of Turning Point USA, the company that her husband founded. She stood right next to the chair that he used to sit in. Let's listen to some of what she said.
I will never, ever have the words to describe the loss that I feel in my heart. I honestly have no idea what any of this means. I know that God does, but I don't. But Charlie, baby, I know you do too. I know you do.
Just so heartbreaking watching Erica Kirk there. The children that they shared together, you have to wonder, you know, the daughter's 3, the son is just a matter of months old. You have to wonder, are they going to have memories of their dad? This is just horrific. Lieutenant Gould, let me go back to you here, please. When we think about what law enforcement does with the family, people don't get to see that. They don't get to see those interactions, all of the work that people like you have put into cases throughout the years, all the energy you pour into them and what goes on behind closed doors. Would you kind of give us an idea of what it may be like for these investigators working this case and the communications they're having with Charlie Kirk's family?
Yeah, Julie, I mean, this is nothing new. Look, this deeply saddens me. The widow's wife was very moving, but none of this was surprising to me because nothing new is here. This reminds me of the John F. Kennedy assassination that I witnessed when I was a young kid. That little John Kennedy had 2 young children, and thankfully they grew up to be very apparently stable and great human beings. So that's obviously the job of psychologists, the family. I think they're in a better condition than the average person. I mean, unfortunately, children lose parents unexpectedly every day. So it is a challenge and it is heartbreaking, and I certainly don't want to be. And law enforcement usually isn't the ones that are actually interacting with the children, you know, once the death notifications are made, social workers and psychologists. But it's an extremely sad and difficult, but not surprising, and we're going to deal with this again and again in the future. As we've had political violence since Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, so nothing surprising here to me.
Yeah, Lieutenant. One thing for anybody who might have missed, we had you on the show the other day, and you shared the one thing that was surprising was what seemed to be the lack of security on the rooftops. Would you mind speaking to that, looking at this with all your many years of experience, what you see as big mistakes that were made here?
Yeah, Julie, this really kind of upset me because I feel that this was a kind of a lack of security, frankly. People talk because he wasn't a political candidate. But there's an assembly of 3,000 people in a fishbowl, basically sitting ducks, as was Charlie. And there was no rooftop surveillance. We just learned this a year ago. And I talked to my colleagues about that, and their first thing is, well, we can't put people on roofs all the time. I'm not talking about putting Navy snipers on the roof. I'm talking to put a volunteer with a radio or a cell phone on the highest point. If this suspect, had an AR-15, we're always talking about mass shootings. If he was up there with an automatic rifle, this would have been a massacre of grave proportion. Fortunately, he had a single shot. He fired 1 round. But this was a grave, and I don't like to be a Monday night quarterback. I made bad decisions as a supervisor in my career, God knows, and I don't like to be criticized on Monday morning. But this is how we learn for the future. So this really upset me. And I think that, as I said, you could have put a volunteer fireman on the roof. It doesn't have to be a trained person. They have to have eyes and a radio, and that's it. And that, I think, would have prevented that. We do that at every gathering. Parades in New York City, there's always rooftop surveillance.
Yes, excellent insight, very helpful insight you're sharing, Lieutenant. Look, it's done. I mean, unfortunately, there's nothing that can bring Charlie Kirk back, but we can learn from these mistakes. And if things weren't learned when they should have been learned, when President Trump, had that assassination attempt on his life, then what's it going to take? My gosh, what is it going to take? Too many of these instances are occurring. Mario, let me ask you about something else. I keep hearing a lot of questions about this, and you practice in both state and federal court. Do you think there could possibly be a basis for any federal charges as well to come with this case?
Well, I'm sure the U.S. Attorney's Office out of Utah is looking into it. It could go both ways. You could do a state or a federal case here. If you wanted to do a federal case, you would have to bring some sort of action against the nation, saying that what he committed here was an action against our nation by the killing of Charlie Kirk. That Charlie Kirk, although not a political figure, was a prominent figure, and did speak out against what he believed in, and that as a result of that, they could try to find some sort of conspiracy. It might be better tried as a state case here, and Utah's all over this. They're doing the investigation they did was wonderful. I mean, they were right on this right away. So, it could go federal, but I believe it's going to remain in the state.
Mario, thanks so much for weighing in on that. I really appreciate that. And who knows, perhaps the death penalty factor may be what decides things. When you think about, right, this only certain federal charges will carry the possibility of the death penalty, where we know if they pursue aggravated murder in Utah, they can certainly get there on these facts.